Hello, how are you? In today's video, I'm going to tell you how many days you need to go without consuming sugar to experience incredible benefits for your hormones, your mood, your daily energy, and what other benefits you can get from cutting out sugar. I'll also tell you how to manage living without sugar, because for some people, it might seem very difficult. Some people say they can't go months or even weeks without sugar, but do you really need that much time, or is it actually much less than you thought? Stay with me until the end because I have some amazing tips on how you can cut out sugar and enjoy these benefits. You'll love this video. First of all, if you're new here, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There are new videos every day and you won't want to miss them. So, a lot of people want to know more about this issue with sugar. We already know that too much sugar is bad for our bodies and that there are many benefits we can gain when we cut out sugar. And many people say that they'd even like to cut sugar from their diet, but they can't go many days without it. After all, will the benefits really make up for the sacrifice of going without sugar for a long time? But there's some good news for you before I talk about how long you need to go without sugar to see these benefits and how to actually do it. I have to tell you what the benefits are of cutting sugar from our diet. When we think about cutting sugar, obviously most people think about losing weight. The first thing people think is that by cutting sugar, they'll reduce the number of calories they consume, change their metabolism, and be able to lose weight. In fact, this is the first benefit, which ends up being very appealing to the vast majority of people because nowadays we already consume a lot of sugar, not just the added sugar you put in your coffee or your juice, but also the sugar that's hidden in various foods. Sometimes even the bread you eat has added sugar. Sometimes when you check the label on savory foods you eat, and I'll explain better how to check this, you'll see there's sugar. Sugar is present. And I'm not talking about wheat flour, which turns into glucose. No, I mean actual sugar. Sugar is present in many foods we eat every day. And when we cut out sugar, we see a significant improvement in insulin secretion and a drastic reduction in fat accumulation in the abdominal area due to the way insulin signals the body. We experience changes in various hormones, our mood shifts, and our energy levels fluctuate because when we constantly consume sugar, our bodies go through energy spikes. And we secrete insulin to store this excess sugar in our bodies. Our brain detects that there is a large amount of sugar, signals the pancreas to release insulin, and stores it as fat. And so your energy levels drop significantly. And when they drop too much, you feel weak, unwell, tired, and your brain senses it needs more glucose again. So it becomes an endless cycle of energy highs and lows. During the day, sometimes you feel very tired. So actually cutting out sugar can help regulate all of this, making you feel not only slimmer because of the energy issue, but also more energetic, with steady energy throughout the day. And it also helps regulate your hormones. Other benefits are first that sugar is very inflammatory. I've already mentioned this to you in other videos. So when we remove sugar from our diet, we can reduce inflammation in our bodies. So for those who have inflammatory problems or who have a lot of acne, it also helps a lot, and we already know that consuming too much sugar is closely linked to weight gain and the development of type 2 diabetes. So cutting out sugar really brings a lot of benefits. But some people tell me that they would like to have these benefits, but they are very attached to sugar and think they won't be able to go months without sugar or even many weeks without it. And now comes the good news. There was this study that was done, which was actually a review study. What is a review study? It's a study in which the researcher analyzes the scientific literature, various papers published in reputable scientific journals, and conducts a review, gathering results from several different studies and analyzing them in a broader way. And in this particular review study, they found that to experience these benefits from cutting out sugar, to start seeing improvements in your skin, improvements in your metabolism, and weight loss, you'll need exactly 9 days. In other words, in less than 10 days, in less than 2 weeks. That's a very short time. You start to experience all these benefits from cutting out sugar. So that's great news. It really doesn't take much time at all for you to start experiencing these benefits. I know that at first, for some people, it might sound a bit strong to say this, but they are actually addicted to sugar because sugar has the ability to activate the same area of the brain that some drugs do, that feeling of pleasure, well-being, and excitement. So really, for some people, when you cut out sugar, at first they feel depressed, they feel tired, and sometimes they even experience that real sense of withdrawal. So, after getting through those 9 days, you'll see that everything will get better. Not just those withdrawal symptoms, but also the benefits for your body. And you might tell me that this is very difficult and ask how you can actually put this into practice. So I've put together some tips here to help you make it happen. The first tip is stop adding sugar to your food. I know some people say this is very hard because they love that sweet taste and don't know how they're going to manage without it. First of all, don't panic, because as I mentioned before, after 9 days your body gets used to it, you start experiencing those benefits and you stop craving sweets and feeling that withdrawal. And your taste buds will actually start to get used to the natural sweetness of foods. That's something I have to tell you is really important. But in fact, how do you resist those first few days? How do you get through them without giving in? Some tips I can give you. When you think about sweetening a food or adding sugar, look for healthier natural alternatives. For example, you can add a variety of spices that naturally give foods a sweeter taste. Cinnamon does this very well, in fact. Some people even put cinnamon in their coffee and it sweetens it, gives it that special flavor, that sweeter aroma. It turns out really good. For example, in yogurt or kefir, you can add a bit of coconut milk, which will naturally help reduce the acidity a little, or even vanilla. Vanilla goes really well with yogurt. I always do this. I add a few drops of unsweetened vanilla extract to my yogurt because it naturally brings out that vanilla flavor, which is super tasty, and it helps to reduce the acidity a bit. So that's a really great tip. Also, avoid acidic juices that will make you feel the need to sweeten them. So at this initial stage, lemonade and passion fruit juice, which people usually sweeten because they can't drink them, even when they're more diluted, they still can't drink them without sweetening. Don't have those right now. If you love that lemon flavor, you can take some sparkling water, for example, and add a few slices of lemon. That way, you get the lemon aroma and that delicious taste. It ends up tasting like a soda, something different for you to drink, and you won't feel the need to sweeten it. The second tip, which is very important, is to read the labels on processed foods, because nowadays it's very common for people to consume processed foods. It would be easy to just tell you to stop eating them. But in reality, in daily life, I know that's very difficult, especially since some of these foods are convenient for everyday use. If you eat bread, you could make it at home, but sometimes in the rush of daily life, you end up buying bread, and that bread might contain sugar. If you checked and your bread doesn't have sugar, look carefully, because there are more than 61 names used in the food industry. Yes, more than 60 different names for sugar. So, what exactly should you be looking for on the product label? Things like glucose syrup, fructose syrup, corn syrup, essentially anything that is labeled as a syrup is, in fact, a form of sugar. Honey is also sugar, just in a different form, but it still is. Be careful with anything that contains glucose, fructose, lactose. All of these are different types of sugar. So, pay attention besides, of course, sugar, inverted sugar, and these different names. Brown sugar and demerara sugar are still sugar just the same, so when you check the label, pay attention to these ingredients to make sure they're not there so you don't end up consuming them without realizing it. Another tip to help you get through this period and to carry with you for life, since you might want to adopt a sugar-free lifestyle, if that's the case. How can you avoid those glucose spikes that sugar causes, as I mentioned earlier? It's not just white sugar that causes this. Some foods, when they're metabolized and digested, are also absorbed in the form of glucose. So you eat the food, but when it reaches your intestines, it turns into sugar and is absorbed just like sugar. Glucose. Which foods should you avoid, especially at this initial stage? White pasta, white bread, white flour in general, so white pasta, white rice, all these foods that have a very high amount of carbohydrates and very little fiber. So we also need to be careful with some juices, like orange juice, especially those juices that are strained, which we sometimes buy at restaurants or on the street, because they strain them to make them taste better. So be careful with that, because they will give you that sugar rush, that excitement from sugar, your blood glucose will spike, then there will be an insulin peak, which will make your glucose drop, so you'll still be left with that lingering sugar sensation in your body. So at this point, the ideal is for you to consume all these whole foods: whole wheat pasta, whole wheat bread, sweet potato instead of white potato, whole wheat bread, everything whole grain with added fiber, to avoid these fluctuations in your blood glucose. This control over your blood glucose will make you less likely to crave sweets. And that's very important, because sometimes we're so hungry, our blood sugar is so low that you feel like eating something sweet to feel better. So in an indirect way, this change in your diet will help you control your cravings for sweets. And my last tip, but also a very important one, is to plan your meals. If you're making a lifestyle change in this regard, it's a good idea to bring your snacks from home. Because if you end up eating something out on the street, you'll inevitably fall into those processed foods that contain sugar. Or they'll add sugar to make it tastier and sell better at that bakery or restaurant. So be careful with street food. Try to plan ahead and bring food from home. Organize your meals the day before. Set aside your snacks just like we do for kids going to school. Pack what you're going to take for snacks in bags or containers so you don't fall into temptation when you're out. Now tell me down here, how is your relationship with sugar? Can you do well without sugar? Is it harder for you to cut sugar from your diet? What is the hardest part? Is it the sugar in your coffee? Sweetened fruit juice? The sugar in cake? The sugar in bread? Which type of sugar is the hardest for you to give up? Tell me here. I'd love to know. And if you've already cut out sugar and it was super easy, tell me what improvements that brought you. What did you feel in your body, in your skin? I'd love to hear how it went. Leave a like on the video because that really helps me out. And if you're new here, don't waste any more time. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on the notification bell. I have new videos every day with all sorts of nutrition updates that we can put into practice in our daily lives, recipes, tips on healthy foods, the benefits of different foods. You're going to love them. See you next time. Bye.